guide all our counsels and actions, so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria, even Ekiti State. So help us, God. Amen. Dear colleagues, I want to welcome us, and I say good morning to you all. Welcome to yet another plenary session. Today, being the 4th day of February 2025, we will quickly run through our votes and proceedings for Thursday, the 30th day of January 2025. And I'm going to take us through from page to page. And I'm starting with page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. And page 6. In the absence of no comments, corrections, or observation, I call on the leader of the House to move the motion. Sorry. I've actually read through, and I can say that everything contained in these votes and proceedings are the truth reflection of what transpired at our plenary session of Thursday, 30th day of January 2025. And on that note, the votes and proceeding for Thursday, 30th January 2025 is hereby approved. Clerk, any message from the governor?
Right, Honorable Speaker, sir. No messages.
Any announcement? Any other announcements?
No other announcements.
Any matter of urgent public importance?
Right, Honorable Speaker, no public petition.
I say any matter of urgent public importance?
No, Right, Honorable Speaker, sir.
There are. Yes. Let me take the leader of the House first.
I was actually waiting to come under personal explanation.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My dear colleagues, I'm Honorable Tolu Lokwege. I represent the Southwest Constituency 2, and by God's grace, the majority leader of this 7th Assembly. Right Honorable Speaker, you recall sometime late last year, you constituted a committee which I headed as the chairman about the complaint of some of our citizens as regards their results from Ekiti State University and vis-a-vis their years of graduation as at when employed into the services of the Legislative Service Commission. After your directive and the question of the committee, we engaged with both parties, and the resolution of the House was sent to them, and they are yet to comply with that resolution. We have called them, and we got letters from the two parties, which is Ekiti State University and Teaching Service Commission. Teaching Service Commission told us that they have forwarded our resolution to Mr. Governor, and they are awaiting the concurrence of Mr. Governor on the resolution. Equally, Ekiti State University claims that their earlier stand is what they are still taking, that the year of graduation is usually the year the student complies with all conditions. And from these two submissions, it's evident that these two parties are going to jeopardize the progress and development of our citizens. And I believe that this House should not allow this or agree to it. It is clear that people are benefited from either the reconciliation of the earlier document as related with their employment, and it's also the Ekiti State University also is to make a correction to the error that they might have made. So I put it to this House, Right Honorable Speaker, that we have to look into this critically and assist our citizens so that they don't further enjoy or experience the scope of this problem.
Even Leader of the House, please sit down. I will allow comment, one or two. Yes, Honorable Awoyemi. Adeyemi, sorry. Awoniyi.
The Right Honorable Speaker, sir, distinguished honorable members of the House, I am Honorable Jacob Adeyemi Awoniyi, representing Mumbai Constituency 2. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise this morning to say one or two things about the matter the leader of the House has just raised. It is a pitiable situation when ministries, agencies, institutions are treating the resolutions of this House with disdain. It is as if we are kidding here, the way they are treating our resolutions. The teaching service is saying they are waiting for the directive from Mr. Governor. Good. The EXU is saying the year the certificate is approved is what is going to be indicated in the certificate. And those that brought the complaint, they did convocation. And before any convocation can take place in any university, the Senate must have approved the result of that particular set. But these people, like I said the other time, discovered that the date of was post-dated. And this is causing them problem at the Teaching Service Commission. The Teaching Service Commission, I wonder why the Teaching Service Commission should be waiting for EXU before they do the needful. Because the other time I discussed with them, they said they are waiting for EXU Although they are now saying another thing, that the resolution has been passed to Mr. Governor. Mr. Speaker, EXU and Teaching Service Commission, they are not in the same office. Another normal condition, and I want to charge our secretariat, sir, when we are writing letters containing resolutions, that of under normal condition, that of teaching service must be different from the one that is going to EXU. The EXU, I think a letter was written for the two. So EXU got to know what has been sent to the teacher. Teaching service got to know what has been sent to EXU. They were using that as a way to delay things. And funny enough, promotion interview has been conducted in the Teaching Service Commission. And these people, they have received another blow. This set of teachers have received another blow. Mr. Speaker, I think something has to be done very urgently. And I want to point it out that our resolutions should be treated with paramount importance. We are not kidding here. And that is our assignment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I don't think we should belabor this. Two issues there. There are two issues. Number one is when people fail in their responsibility, then they tend to visit the consequence on another one. And even in our legal jurisprudence, it is clear that in law, in court, they will tell you that the litigant will not be made to suffer for an error committed even by the registry of the court. And I think what is happening right away now is that the errors committed by the institution, they are also not ready to open up and own up to their own error. Why you have people who are also suffering for the same error committed. The number two issue here is the resolution of this House that by trick, some people somewhere are trying to undermine and play around it. And I think this House will also not allow that. We will allow our resolutions to be so undermined. And I must say, it is a failure on the part of the institution that after a student has convoked already, and you are claiming that it is until conditions are met. Which condition? The condition that has made the student to convoke in your institution. If a student has not met the requirement, can he even in the first place or she convoke in the first place? I think this House will also write back to the two institutions, the Teaching Service Commission and the State University. We will write back to them to also call their attention and make it clear that this House would not allow them in any form to disregard the resolution of this House, and that there must be compliance, not just compliance and solution. It is on record. I was last week, set of these people led protest to this House. Rather than promotion examination now, what is going on is demotion examination. We are here to protect the interests of the people, and will continue to protect their interests. How would they suffer for what an offense they never committed? And that has to be resolved once and for all. Right to the State University clerk must do that immediately, and to the TSC, and they should even come and show cause why this House should also not take and also particularly on the whoever is in charge. The chairman, Teaching Service Commission should come and show cause. Also, the VC, Vice Chancellor of Ekiti State University, should also come and show cause. Thank you very much. Now, Leader of the House.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thanks for leading frontally. God will continue to improve you in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Right Honorable Speaker, you will recall that our last plenary meeting, in view of our items 4 on our order paper, the House requested invited the Honorable Commissioner for Finance to come and put some clarity to the bill on the pension reform law, the pension reform bill, first amendment. I'm told that he's around, and I want to move a motion seeking the leave of this House to admit him in.
It's just be him alone and every other
And all the other
that we have invited
parties.
Let them be admitted,
Yeah, be admitted.
not to address us, yes, but let the House admit them and to come in since they are here on the invitation of the House. Get more chairs. Who are the other people we invited?
We invited the pension, I'll say the pension, PENCOM.
Management of PENCOM.
Yeah, management of PENCOM. Then
And
the management of one of the labor.
I think the labor union,
Yeah.
Ikere and the rest of them.
Yes. And the NUT.
And NUT, Abi?
NUC.
NUT.
NUC.
No, NUC.
Okay.
It has to be NUT. NUC is National University Commission. Thank you. Or NLC, it's either NLC or
NLC and
NUT,
NUT.
whichever one.
Amendment
You
to my
know,
motion, sir.
what we are going to do, we will take them, we will admit them when we get to their turn. So please, let's leave it, let's go to our business. Can you take us through the order of the day? Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In view of that, the next, the order paper for Tuesday, 4th, the order paper for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, has 7 items. Item 1 is the report of the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Chiefs First Amendment Bill 2025. Item 2 is the report of the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Customary Court Law Second Amendment Bill 2025. Item 3, the report of the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Customary Court of Appeal First Amendment Bill 2025. Item 4 is the consideration of the report of the ad hoc committee on the Ekiti State Pension Reform Law First Amendment 2025. Items 5 is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology on Ekiti State Secondary School Board Bill 2025. Item 6 is also the consideration of the Ekiti State House of Assembly Service Commission Loans Board First Amendment Bill 2025, while the last item, which is item 7, is adjournment. Right, Honorable Speaker, you may direct the chairman of the Committee on Judicial and Legal Matters in the person of Honorable Batunde Oke to take items 1.
Well, this is how we are going to do it, Leader of the House. I'm going to direct the Chairman's Committee on Legal Matters to take item 1, item 2, item 3, one after the other, so that you can just lay the 3 reports at a go. So you can take your time now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And why are you on suit?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dear colleagues, I'm Honorable Babatunde Oke, representing Ikere Constituency 1 and the Chairman House Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters. The first report is the report of the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Chiefs Amendment B 2024. Preamble. On 16 July 2024, the House, at its plenary sitting, committed the State Chiefs Amendment B 2024 to the House Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters for further legislative consideration. The committee organized a public hearing to gather divergent views of relevant stakeholders, particularly in the judicial sector, to promote openness and inclusiveness in passing the bill. Recommendations. 1. Section 2 of the bill, the word High Court should be replaced with court to now read, period within which appointment may be challenged. Any person who is aggrieved by the appointment of another as an Oba shall, within 7 days of the date, institute action in court challenging the appointment. 2. Section 3 of the bill, the word High Court should be replaced with court, and the interpretation of the word court will now read, courts include High Court or customary court of appeal under jurisdiction. Appreciation. The committee appreciates the leadership of the House, led by Right Honorable Speaker, and the entire distinguished members for the privilege granted to consider this desirable bill. Committee members, Honorable Babatunde Oke, Chairman, Honorable Iyabo Fakolo Okieme, Vice Chairman, Honorable Olariwaju Femi Akindele, Member, Honorable Alhaja Mariam Ogunlade, Member, Honorable Ayodeji Adegbite, Member. Committee Clerk, Mr. Ganiyu Pasoro. The second report, Mr. Speaker, is the report of Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on the State Customary Court Law, Second Amendment, B, 2024. Preamble. On 16 July 2024, the House, at its plenary sitting, committed the State Customary Court, Second Amendment, B, 2024, to the House Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters for further legislative consideration. The committee organized a public hearing to gather divergent views of relevant stakeholders, particularly in the judicial sector, to promote openness and inclusiveness in passing the bill. Recommendations. 1. Substitution of Section 17 of the Principal Law with another Section 17 as follows. Status of court. Sub 1. A customary court shall be a court of record. Subsection 2. Customary court shall be graded as A. Customary court A to be presided by a legal practitioner subject to Section 3 sub 3, and B. Customary court C to be presided by non-legal practitioner. Subsection 3. Second schedule. The jurisdiction and power of the customary court A shall be as set out in the second schedule. 2. Second schedule, that's Section 17. Subsection 2 to be drafted to now read. Unlimited jurisdiction in matrimonial causes or matters in relation to persons who have cohabited for more than 2 years, or persons who have a child or children between themselves without marriage, excluding any cause or matter relating to, arising from, or connected with a monogamous marriage as defined in Section 1 of Criminal Code. 3. Subsection 5. Delete 10 million naira and replace with 5 million naira. Subsection 4. Subsection 10. No, number 4, subsection 10 now. Delete 1 million naira and replace with 2 million naira. Number 5. Third schedule. Section 22. New subsection 3 to be introduced to read. Grade A customary court not presided over by a legal practitioner shall have jurisdiction to administer or commit to imprisonment not exceeded 3 years or fine not exceeded 50,000 naira of criminal offense, and the value of money involved in any criminal offense does not exceed 500,000 naira. Appreciation. The committee appreciates the leadership of the House, led by the Right Honorable Speaker and the entire distinguished members, for the privilege granted to consider this desirable bill. Committee members, Honorable Babatunde Oke, Chairman, Honorable Iyabo Fakolo Okieme, Vice Chairman, Honorable Olariwaju Femi Akindele, Member, Honorable Alhaja Mariam Ogunlade, Member, Honorable Ayodeji Adegbite, Member, Mr. Ganiyu Fasoro, Committee Clerk. The third report, Mr. Speaker, is the report of Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Customary Court of Appeal, First Amendment B, 2024. On 16 July, the House, as plenary sitting, committed the Ekiti State Customary Court of Appeal, First Amendment B, 2024, to the House Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters for further legislative consideration. The committee organized a public hearing where relevant stakeholders were invited and allowed to speak on the pros and cons of the bill. Proposed amendments. Number 1, Section 2 of the bill deletes Section 6 and the phrase subject to Section 21 of the Constitution to now read, a person holding the office of the President or Judge of the Customary Court of Appeal shall vacate his office when he attains the age of 70 years. 2, Section 3 of the bill deletes one bracket and change the age of retirement from 65 years to 60 years to now read, there shall be a chief registrar of the Customary Court of Appeal who shall be appointed by the State Judicial Service Commission and shall retire at the age of 60 years. Number 3, Section 4A of the bill, change 2 to 1 and to now read as follows. Subsection 1, the court shall have original jurisdiction in respect of the following. Section 4A, to be deleted, since the court already has a jurisdiction on chieftaincy matters by virtue of Section 41 sub 2 of the State's Customary Court of Appeal Law 2011, and the remaining subsection B to F to be rearranged accordingly. Section 4C, remove the last 2 words to land to now read offenses relating to chieftaincy title. Section 4E to be redacted to read as follows. Offenses relating to gender-based violence, female genital mutilation, and widowhood practices within the customary law of the land. 4. New Section 4, Subsection 2 should be introduced to read, the jurisdiction under this section shall run concurrently with other courts having similar jurisdiction under the Constitution or statutes. Appreciation. The committee appreciates the leadership of the House, led by the Right Honourable Speaker and the entire distinguished members, for the privilege granted to consider this desirable bill. Committee members, Honourable Babatude Oke, Chairman, Honourable Yao Fakule Oke, Vice Chairman, Honourable Olariwaju Femi Akindele, Member, Honourable Alhaja Mariam Ogunlade, Member, Honourable Ayode Jadebite, Member, Mr. Gani Fashoro, Committee Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that beautiful report, and thank you for a job well done. I call on the leader of the House to move the motion for its adoption.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, my dear colleagues. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to move a motion seeking the approval of this House to adopt this document as presented. I so move.
Who is seconding? Yes, Honorable Abimbola Sholanke.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, my name is Honorable Abimbola Sholanke, member representing Momba Constituency 1. I rise to second the motion as moved by the majority leader of the House, that the report be adopted as working document of the House.
Thank you very much. Yes. So therefore, I put a question that if you are in support, that the report of Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters of Ekiti State on Chief's First Amendment Bill 2025 be adopted. Also, the report of Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Customary Courts Law Second Amendment Bill 2025 be adopted, and also the report of Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters on Ekiti State Customary Court of Appeal First Amendment Bill 2025 be adopted as the working documents of this House. Say aye. If you're against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the next item on our order of the day is item 4, and it's consideration of the report.
Sorry, please. Before you go on, I need to also announce that the report of the committee will be slated for another day, and is hereby committed to the committee of the whole House. So the report is committed to the committee of the House, and it will be slated by the Committee on Rules and Business. So please kindly schedule it for the consideration of the Committee of the whole House. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thanks, my dear colleagues. Right Honorable Speaker, the next item, which is item 4, is the consideration of the report of the ad hoc committee on the state pension reform law. And to deal with this, in our last plenary, we invited certain stakeholders to throw more light on this. And having said that, Speaker, I want to move the motion that the invited stakeholders be allowed admittance into this honorable House to be heard, to be seen and be heard, so as to take our items forward. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Lateef Oluwole Akanle.
Oluwole Akanle, representing Ekiti East 2, arise to second the motion that the invited stakeholders should be allowed to be admitted into the yellow chambers. I so second.
If you are in support that all the stakeholders so invited to be part of this day plenary session, most especially the consideration of the report, further consideration by the whole House of the report of the ad hoc committee on the Ekiti State Pension Reform Law, First Amendment 2035. If you are in support that they be admitted into this allo chamber, not just to be seen, but also to be heard, say aye. If you're against, say nay. The ayes have it. Please, you can just bring them in, and after taking a bow, let them sit down. Please, leader, let them come in first. Thank you. Don't rush too much. I know that we have executive session. Let them come in. Thank you. You are welcome. Yes, leader of the House.
Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, I equally want to move a motion that this House dissolves into a committee of the whole House to consider the reports of the ad hoc committee on the Ekiti State Pension Reform Law and also get the input of our stakeholders that were earlier admitted. I so move.
Funding. Yes, Honorable Bosse Olowokere.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. I'm Honorable Bosse Olowokere, the member representing the special republic that is existing within the nation, a foreign republic. I rise this afternoon to second the motion as moved by the majority leader of this honorable House that that this House should dissolve to the committee of the whole House to consider the report of the committee of ad hoc committee on Ekiti State Pension Reform Law, First Amendment. I so second.
Thank you very much. I therefore put a question that if you are in support that this House dissolves to the Committee of the Whole House for further consideration by the Committee of the Whole House, the report of Article Committee on the State Pension Reform Law, First Amendment 2025. Say aye. If you're against, say nay. The ayes have it. So the House dissolves to the Committee of the House. I'm going to preside from here, but just lower the mace. Thank you. Let all stakeholders that have interest, particularly on this matter, let them come in. Nugget Chairman, NUC, NLC, let them come in. Let them come in. Get chairs for them now. Oh, yeah. We invited them. Ow. Let them sit now. While they are making arrangement for them to sit, let me quickly welcome us to the Committee of the Whole House. You will recall at our last sitting, this House also dissolved to Committee of the Whole House, where the report by the ad hoc committee set up by this House on the Pension Reform Law Bill 2025, we started consideration and we adjourn to today for further consideration of that bill. The ad hoc committee headed by Honorable Awoni gave the report, you recall, but we felt there is the need to also clear all the gray areas so that the House can expedite action. You remember that this bill has been with us for about 3 to 4 months now. And part of what we have done after the first reading, at the second reading, the bill was thoroughly debated. But we were not done with that. We also sat down and committed the bill to a committee to an ad hoc committee to further scrutinize the bill. Unfortunately, one of us, a retiree, was the chair of that ad hoc committee. And I am also aware, particularly from the report, that there was a stakeholder engagement that also include all various interests. The NSC, TUC, ASU, SASANU, and the rest of them were invited by the committee. And after the consideration at the committee, the ad hoc committee level, a report was also written. And the report was signed by all members of that ad hoc committee. The report came to us at the last plenary on the 30th day of January 2025, and we consider the report. But we felt, let us also give benefit of the doubt so that all gray areas are clear. Honorable Awoni, can you quickly give us the gray area that you are the chair of that committee, so that I have the Commissioner for Finance, I also have the Permanent Secretary, PENCOM, and his team. I have some of the labor union who are here, so that let them know the areas that you think need further clarification, and after that, I will allow the union to make their presentation and then call on the Commissioner to All right. So, Honorable Awoniyi.
The Right Honorable Speaker, sir, the distinguished honorable members of the House, I'm Honorable Jacob Adeyemi Awoniyi, member representing our constituency 2. The purpose of the bill that our committee has worked on is mainly to discuss and look into the migration from defined benefit scheme, that is the old system, to a new one, which is contributory pension scheme. And the major reason why that one is very important and germane is to address the financial strain associated with the defined benefit scheme, which has accumulated substantial unpaid liabilities for gratuities. We have those that have retired for many years are still expecting their gratuities up to today. Thank God the government of the day is trying, but to the best of my knowledge, retirees from the year 2015 down are still expecting their gratuities. If this new scheme is put in place, definitely the era of waiting for gratuities will get evaporated. There will be nothing like that. And they will be getting, they will just get their gratuities as early as
Honorable Awoniyi, sorry, sir, I want you to make it very short. Just go, don't speak for, don't speak against.
Okay.
Just goes to those gray areas.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
The employees with over 5 years under the DBS will migrate to CPS, while those with less than 5 years remain under the old system. Like I said, this aims to reduce gratuities, liabilities gradually. Then CPS participants can use part of their pension savings for residential mortgage equity contributions. And apart from that, the State Pension Commission will oversee contributions, recover unremitted deductions, and manage exemptions from the scheme. And areas where people have their fare were allayed at that particular event. That is when we have the public hearing. Mr. Speaker, I think that is where I will stay. That is where I will stop for now.
All right, let me do this way. I will allow the Honorable Commissioner for Finance, you have had some of the gray area to speak to the bill. And if there are areas the union would seek further clarification after the commissioner must have spoken, then the union can now come. So I will allow the union to please take your pen while you listen to the commissioner to speak to us and to Ekiti people on this pension reform bill. Thank you.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker, members of the Ekiti State House of Assembly, PS, PENCOM, labor leaders, and also ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the time and the permission to add my voice to this debate. I must first say I think this is again another very clear demonstration of how democracy should work. I don't think we should all agree wholeheartedly with some of these provisions, and there should be room for genuine, honest, and rigorous debates, especially from the people who will be affected by these amendments. But I'd like to start my contribution from today. What we have seen is a long legacy of unpaid gratuity obligations. And as you've graciously noted, we have since 2022 done quite a bit to defray a lot of the outstanding gratuities. But despite paying almost 8 billion in outstanding gratuities, we're still 9 years behind on gratuity payments. So this is the first problem that we have with the defined benefit scheme. The scheme is relatively opaque because the contributors do not really have a way of verifying that the deductions being made from their salaries actually end up as contribution for a future payment. The only person that has the full understanding or full awareness of that is whoever is in government on the day. And so what you find is that when there are fiscal challenges, those deductions are taken from the gross salaries, but hardly often remitted to the beneficiaries. And this is an age-long problem. So it's not a one government problem. It's a problem that at least 3 governments in this state have inherited, right? But government is a continuum. So it's not our job to say the person who caused the problem was the person who was in office X years ago. No, we have to solve the problem. But as we solve the problem of gratuity, we need to also look to the future to ensure that we don't prevent that problem from coming again. And that's why we're asking for this migration. And I understand some of the issues that some of the unions might have. Again, it's not an easy discussion for the government, because if this law is passed, for example, the contribution from employer, which is the government, is going to be circa 632 million naira per month. That is what government is going to have to set aside for the employer's contribution to the contributory pension scheme. So if our colleagues say, we don't want this, it actually makes our lives very easy. Because all of a sudden, I don't have to think about where we're going to find 632 million to meet the employer's contribution to the CPS. So that's, I think I wanted to put that on the table. Now, I know that I followed the public hearing and I got some comments that were made. And the first that I got was people saying, the police force was agitating to pull out of the CPS, etc. Actually, what the police force wanted was not to pull out of the CPS. What they agitated and got was that they wanted their own PFA to manage the affairs of police officers. So there's actually a pension fund administrator for the police force, the Nigerian Police PFA, right? So it's not, they want to say, look, we are large enough to manage to have a close PFA to manage our affairs, and the law allows for that. Now, 2 is the conversation around funding. Again, and there are 2 types. Let's say government MDAs, subvented institutions. Now, for us, the proof of our ability to fund this is that we have today, it's a small number, but 129 people have successfully retired under the CPS. Within 2 weeks of their retirement, they were paid their lump sum payments. Now, that's the ideal. So what we are saying is that what those 129 people benefited from, we want everybody to benefit from. The day you retire, within 2 weeks of retirement, you get your lump sum payments. Now, how are we going to do this? We have to fund the accrued rights, which is effectively the rights that accrue to those people from their service, from inception to when they are cut over to the CPS. And then we'll fund the employer's contribution under the CPS till these people retire. Ekiti State is one of the top 5 most compliant states under the CPS. So our compliance levels are not in doubt. So that's the first thing I want to put on the table. 2 is that we will fund this. Of course, we cannot fund this huge obligation at once. It's not an obligation any state government can fund at once. But what we will do is to continue to set money aside on a monthly basis such that those who are going to retire first under this scheme, by the time they are retiring 5 years from now, everything that we need to have set aside for them would have done. So remember, we have 5 years, right, to put for the first set of people who are retiring under this scheme. We have 5 years to ensure that we meet all their outstanding contributions. And that's how we'll be doing it on a monthly basis. For subvented institutions, who say even our subvention today is not enough, etc. I mean, I have two responses to that. One is that we have said to subvented institutions, will you allow us take your contribution as a first-line charge? The leadership of those institutions are the ones who are kicking against that. So we are saying, look, for matters of future obligation, subvented institution, let us take this thing as a first-line charge. Now, if they allow us to take it as a first-line charge, we are even willing to have a conversation on perhaps looking at how to improve those subventions. But until you allow us to take it as a first-line charge, there is no guarantee that the funding that we added for the purpose of meeting your contributory pension scheme obligations, it can be funneled into something else. That is the reality. So, Mr. Speaker and members, the issue of subvention I understand, but the real issue is, will the management of those subvented institutions allow that these amounts be set aside as a first-line charge? I think that is the real conversation. And that conversation, with due respect, we are meddlesome interlopers in that discussion. It is simply a discussion between the management of those institutions and their staff and their unions, that you will commit to setting this aside as a first-line charge. Because the reality of the conversation is that Boesti, for example, they still come to say, even as College of Education, they've not paid gratuity to people. This is 30 years. But the state government is not a party to that conversation because the institution has autonomy. So all the state government will do is subvent to the limits of its powers or to the limit of its fiscal ability to those institutions. But those institutions too must say, within the universe of what we have, we are going to prioritize this contribution. Now, that is a conversation that the management of those institutions have to come and discuss. I think in terms of labor unions should be involved in the implementation. Mr. Speaker, I'm actually surprised because, the state NLC and TUC chairs are members of the Pension Commission Board, statutorily. So I don't think there's any bigger involvement than being part of the board that has oversight over the implementing agency. And I'm also sure that the Pension Commission engaged the unions even before these amendments were proposed and will be open to continuous engagement with the unions. One of the things I always say is that, if you recall, Mr. Speaker, a few years ago, we proposed a promissory note scheme to help defray significant arrears of pensioners, gratuity arrears. Of course, as with every financial related policy, either by deliberate efforts or by just misunderstanding, something lost in translation, quite a number of the potential beneficiaries kicked against the scheme. And we said, as government, we cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. So we said those who are supposed to benefit from the scheme, if they are the ones saying we don't want this scheme, we have no choice but to stand the scheme down. And we stood the scheme down at the time. Now, that was in 2021. If we had implemented that scheme in 2021, we would have cleared 7 years gratuity arrears. I am sad that today, the people who would have benefited from that scheme, maybe we've only cleared now 1.5 or 2 years of that number. For me personally, it's saddening because today, if you think about the time value of money, inflation, etc., if those people had taken that money 3 years ago, they will be much, 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 much better off than whenever it is paid. And this is even with a lot of deliberate effort to meet that obligation. So our position here is primarily advisory, right? those who are the ones who are going to benefit from the scheme are the ones that will say whether we want this thing or not. But you can't, this is not something that you go half-hearted. You either make it mandatory or you remove it. We can't say, because if we did a mandatory program 11 years ago, we will not be in this position today. Yes, there would have been challenges, there would have been fiscal issues in the first few years, but we will not be in this position today. Because if we had done it mandatory, it would have meant everybody who was in service at that time, again, within the same 5-year window of retirement, would have been migrated. Those people would have been seeing their RSA contributions today. Real-time online. That contribution would have earned them a return, because the PFAs have to invest that money to ensure that you get a return on investment. Unlike this DB scheme, where there's no inflation, your money is eroding every day, because whatever that figure is, you are not going to get a return on it. Again, one of the things that, in terms of training, etc., I think is something that PENCOM will do, right? PENCOM constantly will hold training programs, and those who are on the CPS scheme will attest to the fact that pre-retirement, they are trained properly on financial management, on personal financial management especially, to help them plan better for retirement. In fact, Mr. Speaker and members, I would have loved that as part of this invitation, if you would have invited some of the pensioners on the contributory pension scheme to share their experience, with you on how they were migrated out of service at retirement, how quickly their lump sum payment was made, and how they get their monthly pension today. It will have, I think, and it can still, in my opinion, enrich this conversation if you compare the experiences of those on this scheme with those on the DB scheme that we currently run for a lot of our workers. In terms of what will happen to professors, permanent secretaries, etc., the framework is the same. They get their full benefit under the scheme, as long as the funding for that is done by the government. So again, the responsibility is on government. In fact, I should leave this side of the conversation and actually join the labor side of it, because it reduces the immediate obligation on me as a person, as your finance commissioner. But the reality of this conversation is that part of the things that we signed up for when we came to swear an oath of office is to take difficult decisions that will be in the best interest of the people and the best interest of the state. Because we can kick this can down the road. Mr. Governor can say, okay, no problem. Let the next governor come and solve this problem. There won't be any problem. It will only free up resources of government to do other things. So I would like to just give you, Mr. Speaker and members, a sense of what this obligation looks like. Again, we are talking, if we think about the liability for all the workers of the government, state, local government, subvented institutions, this is a 500 billion naira obligation. That is the size of the problem that we are dealing with. It's 515 billion naira and counting. So we can either continue to wrap that number and kick it down the road, right? By the time we kick it down the road, maybe it will be 700 billion in 5 or 6 years. Somebody else will come and solve that problem. Or we try to solve it now. And we start to eat into those numbers now. Because for us, the solution has to be something that is beneficial to everybody. But the people as well must understand the benefit to them. So I'm happy that the union representatives are here. The two big issues you have are, can government fund the contribution and the accrued rights? First, we're already funding employers' contribution on the CPS. PS PENCOM will share with you all the things we've done to be compliant with the CPS. Retirement bond, everything. We are fully compliant. And in fact, we are one of 5 states in the country today who can get a PENCOM certificate if we want to ever raise money from PFAs. There are not many. Lagos Kaduna, ourselves. In fact, I don't even know any others apart from those three. So we're not many. So we're already compliant with the CPS. Now, on a monthly basis, it is our job to now go and start setting money aside to ensure that we can fund the accrued rights of those who are going to retire. But remember, if we implement this thing in 2025, it will not cover anybody that retires before February 2030. So it means that someone who is retiring in 2030, say March 2030, is guaranteed that as of that 2030 when they are retiring, there's a lump sum payment that they will get, which is what you know today as gratuity, and there's a monthly pension that they will continue to get for the rest of their lives. In my opinion, I don't think there's any better opportunity than now. The other thing I'll say again to the subvented institutions is that we need to have a conversation as management and staff. We don't oversee both the IGR and the subvention of subvented institutions. We don't know what they do with their money because they have autonomy. So the solution of subvented institutions is much bigger than pension reform. Right? The reform of the finances of subvented institutions is much bigger than pension reform. But again, as a government, we've shown fidelity to subvented institutions. We've increased the running grants twice. The government is carrying out capital projects in some of these institutions. As we speak today, the government is building a ward in Exut. What is that ward going to do when it's fully done? Over 100 beds in that ward. It means that Exut's capacity to take on patients is increased. If you take on more patients, apart from the obvious benefit of improved healthcare outcomes in the state, there's an IGR benefit to that. The state government is not asking Exut to pay for that. But the leadership of Exut, for example, and I use Exut as an example, must also say, this is what we can set aside to meet this obligation. You can't just say we can't do anything. Because if you come to the government with a proposal, then the government at least sees that you are serious about the welfare of the staff. So that is a management and union and staff discussion, primarily. So, Mr. Speaker, I will yield, and with your permission, Speaker and members, for PS Pencom to come and even share some of the things we've done in the last 2 years, right, to make us more compliant with the Pension Reform Act. So this is not happenstance, it's not an accident. It's deliberate planning that has got us to this stage. And I think that we all owe it to ourselves and to our legacies and to the future of the state, that if we know what is right, and we are in a position to do what is right, we should do what is right. But as I said at the beginning, I have no stand or position on this matter. Actually, repealing those sections make my own personal work much easier, right? So those provisions actually make our work as government a lot harder. So, you know, I mean, I speak for the Ministry of Finance and for PENCOM that this is actually something that makes our lives collectively harder, but is going to significantly improve the life of our workers when they retire. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a beautiful one from the Commissioner of Finance. Yes, I will accede to your request, Mrs. Fasheluka. Am I right? The Permanent Secretary PENCOM. Please, you have the floor now. Now you can be seen and also be heard.
The Right Honorable Speaker and the distinguished honorable members of the House of Assembly, I want to say good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma. I want to share with the honorable members of the House of Assembly that PENCOM has been making consolidated progress in the implementation of the contributory pension scheme in Ekiti State, and this was made possible by the support
of the present administration in the following areas. One is prompt payment of employees' contribution on monthly basis. That is 10% of basic rent and transport allowances. The monthly funding of retirement benefit bond redemption fund, RBBRF account, to facilitate payment of accrued pension rights for the past services rendered by the CPS participants. Then the annual payment of sinking fund for the payment of death benefits to the legal beneficiaries of the CPS participants that died in active service. Then the state government usually deducts CPS contributions at source from the subvention of a subvented institution that had failed to pay the contributions, both employer and employee, to the RSA account, I mean retirement savings account of the CPS participants. So state governments normally deduct the CPS contribution at source from their subvention. And to date, we have 129 CPS participants that has received their retirement benefits as at when due. And we have been working assiduously to ensure that remittances of these contributions are made on monthly basis to the RSA account of CPS participants. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. Let me ask, member of the union, you have listened to the Commissioner for Finance, you have listened to the PS, Permanent Secretary, Pension Reform. Do you still have anything that you would like to ask or contribution you want to make? All right, please, you have the podium. Please, you start by introducing yourself. Thank you.
The Right Honorable Speaker, Ekiti State House of Assembly, very highly distinguished, honorable member of the House, the Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. I want to first of all start by appreciating the leadership of this honorable House for providing qualitative leadership for us in Ekiti State. And what you are practically doing right now, sincerely speaking, has attested to the quality of leadership we have in this house. Ekiti State and all the workers in Ekiti State, we are all proud of you, sir. Mr. Speaker, the workers in Ekiti State, particularly local government workers, are not too disposed to this scheme. The reason, Mr. Speaker, being the fact that in this contemporary side of the country, we normally make an allusion that when you want to offer a medicine to somebody, before that person.
Yes, Honorable Tudoke, your observation.
We are yet to know the man that is speaking to us, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. Kindly introduce yourself. On your mic.
My name is Comrade Oluseyi Olatunde, Ekiti State Noge President. Thank you, sir. Like I was saying, Mr. Speaker, before anybody, particularly in Ekiti State here, before you will take any medicine from somebody, you will first of all ask that person if he had used that mercy in the past and if that mercy had worked for him or her.
But let me ask a question. At least if you want to ask if you have used that mercy before, at least one person will start the use of the mercy. At least somebody start the use of the mercy.
Yes, sir.
Somebody has to start the usage of the mercy.
It's true, sir. It's true, sir.
The mercy starts somewhere.
It's true, sir.
And it must commence somewhere.
It's true, sir.
So, and if the person you are referring to, for example, in this circumstance,
yes,
has never worked in the service, there is no way he will be under contributory pension scheme.
It's true,
meaning
sir.
that he cannot be served with that mercy. But he has a solution in his hand. Even though he cannot use it, somebody has to use it.
It's true, sir.
And it has to start somewhere. Yes. I am always alluding to your analogy.
Yes, sir.
Oh, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, because of the experience of our people and because of
our guests at the gallery, please maintain peace there. Call yourself to order.
And because of the policy somersault, nature that we have in Nigeria, all of this put together has been what has been giving workers, particularly local government workers, serious concern. For instance, Mr. Speaker, we've learned in the few states who had started the scheme, the testimony coming for them has been that their government has not been faithful in the remittances. So, Mr. Speaker, my presentation will be broadly based. It will not be peculiar to Ekiti State because in Ekiti State here, we have a God-fearing governor in Ekiti State. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, even the current CPS that we are operating in Ekiti now was given during the immediate past governor, it thrives under the immediate past governor, Dr. John Kawadi, no issue. And Bao came again as we speak, the CPS currently, no issues. But Mr. Speaker, before Dr. John Kawadi came to this state, I want to say the CPS we are currently operating had been epileptic, Mr. Speaker. It has not been smooth. It has not been implemented the same way they told us in 2010 when they wanted to start it. But thank God for JKF and Bao now. So that is why the experience in other states is not palatable, Mr. Speaker. And this...
Don't you also think that continuity will also strengthen this?
I agree with you, Mr. Speaker.
And it will become a culture.
I agree with you.
And once it becomes a culture, it might be very difficult for anybody to just come and rubbish the whole system again.
I sincerely agree with you, sir.
Okay.
I agree with you. So, Mr. Speaker, presently in Nigeria, the few states that are practicing it, the participants are finding it extremely difficult. The retirees under that scheme are finding it extremely difficult to access their retirement benefits when they retire.
Please, hold on, please. Please, those of you coming in, please, can you just maintain silence at the gallery? Please. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, that is scary to our members has been the testimony of a retired police officer, very senior retired police officer, Mr. Speaker, who retired from the Nigerian Police Force, and he came to the public here to tell us that what he's now getting as his retirement benefit at the end of the month was only 45,000 naira. Mr. Speaker, every worker in Nigeria, with this news, we were not comfortable.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
Do you even, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I need to also know your perspective on this contributory pension scheme.
Yes, sir.
I need to, do you also understand how this will work, particularly while listening to the Commissioner of Finance. Maybe let me also have your understanding of it. And before we started making reference to what has happened, your members, because you are speaking for your members,
Yes.
do you really understand the mischief that this particular bill came to settle in the first place? So that, because we need to understand first, what is your perception about this bill particularly? Let's forget about the story we are hearing, your own perception of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My perception about this bill is, with the way I perceive it, is born out of the concern of the government to ensure that the challenge of the present scheme is put behind us, so that we will not.
And what is that challenge?
The challenge has been lump sum or unpaid lump sum of the gratuity.
Sir, if I may ask you, the gratuity now in Ekiti State, despite all effort, you listen to the Honorable Commissioner,
Yes.
about 8 billion or 9 billion
Yes.
has been paid.
Yes.
But despite that effort, do you even know we are clearing the backlogs?
Yes.
What year are we now, even despite the 9 billion that we have paid?
Mr. Speaker, I can only speak for that of the local government.
Yes, for local
in
government.
local government, as we speak, we are in year 2014.
2014.
Yes.
Meaning that we have a backlog of 11 years.
Yes.
11 years
Yes.
to be paid. And this new scheme is to the effect that once you key into it, at the point of retirement, you get your lump sum, you get your money. You don't have to queue again. Is that correct?
Yes. That is the design.
Okay, that is the design.
That is the design, Mr.
So your fear is that the government might not be faithful to it.
Mr. Speaker, like I said, workers so much believe in the administration.
No, please don't put, let's do it this way. I always, don't put Governor Bao into it.
Okay, sir.
Let's put it as government.
Thank you, sir.
That you voted for.
The fear.
And that what the House of Assembly is trying to do now is to come up with a law. It is not just a policy.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Yes.
There is difference between having a policy in place and having a law in place.
Yes.
What we are doing now is to have a law in place and not just government policy.
Yes.
Law is law.
Yes.
If it is law, if a government is coming and is violating any section of the law, the union can go to court, you know that.
Yes.
But for policy, another government can come and just scrap policy.
Yes.
Because these are things that I think you should also look at while you are agitating.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I go on, Mr. Speaker, the one that is similar to the scenario you have just thrown to me, Mr. Speaker, we were in this state when the governor was in the saddle and was using 3 allocations to pay just 1 month's salary. And the workers, it's not as if the union are sleeping, the union are shouting. Some of us went to court against him. But at the end of the day, nothing happened, Mr. Speaker.
And because it is not justiciable. That one, there is no specific law that regulates payment of worker salary. But we are talking about coming up with a law that regulates this contributing pension scheme now, which is what we are doing. Do you know that, let me ask you a question, if we don't pass this law, if government just come up with a policy, you will continue to fight. Is that not correct?
We won't fight.
No, you can fight. As you know, you continue to agitate.
We agitate.
All right. Okay.
Agitate.
What is your prayer?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, because of our fear, because of the fact that we see this scheme as a scheme or as a journey that we have never embarked upon before. So because of that fear, this is our prayer. Our prayer is that the DPS, we are known to it. And there is this analogy that says, unknown devil is better than unknown angel.
Hold on, sir. Are you, because you have not crossed a path before, you have not trodden a path before, and something is not working for you, you will rather stick to what is not working for you. Is that what you are saying, sir? Let me ask, okay, maybe I should do this way. In 2014, or 2010, for example, you have 10 million somewhere. And somebody said, give me 1 million of that 10 million. 1 million out of that 10 million. So that you can access everything, you get 9 million. And you said no. The same person said, don't worry, you can decide not to give me the 1 million naira, but you will get your body in 2018, 2010, or in 2020 now. You're supposed to get that money in 2014 by just parting with 1 million naira, for example. And you will have gotten 9 million naira. And this person has said, well, if you can't part with 1 million naira, don't worry, you are going to get your full money in 2020. 2020. Now, truly, you decided to say, no, I am not going to part with 1 million naira, I will wait till 2020. Now, in 2010, don't forget, now you don't get your full money in 2020. 10 million naira. As an economist, you are not, I don't know whether you are an economist. Do you think your 10 million naira of 2020 is the same? Which one is better? 9 million of 2010 or 10 million of 2020? Which one will you take?
9 million of 2014 is much more better.
9 million of 2014 is much more better.
It's much more better.
And we are also saying that, why don't you just get your lump sum now, instead of waiting for another 5, 6, 7 years before you get it? You feel, and you still believe that waiting for another 5 years, I am sorry, I don't pray for death. Yes. Do you know some people who will have collected, there was a scheme in 2014 or thereabout, that they will have gotten their money because of probably the interest that was to be paid, refused. Some of them even died, that it's their children that are also running to get that money. I am not speaking for government.
Yes, sir.
If I want to speak for government, we'll have passed this law since maybe October or thereabout. No. And that was why we have allowed this. But I want us also to let us look at the pros and cons. And at the end of the day, we will stick to what I believe will be very good for the people.
Yes, sir.
At the end of it, what will be good for you as a worker? I was a civil servant, don't forget.
I know.
As a matter of fact, because of my age, I'm supposed to be benefiting my retirement, but I am not yet 50. But I've collected my gratuity.
Okay.
But I am here to start my pension. But I would have loved that what I would be entitled to if I had been paid. Because I remember a bag of cement when I left service was less than 1,000 naira. A bag of cement today is sold for 9,500.
10,000, Mr.
10,000.
Yes, sir.
And it is still the same amount of money that I am to get that time that I will get now. The money, I don't know how many bags of cement it will buy now. And that time, it will have bought so many. Please, let's just sit down together and reason. Before you go on, I don't know if there is any member that has any contribution to this. Honorable Topelonge.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Okay.
Right, Honorable Speaker, fellow parliamentarians, the Honorable Commissioner of Finance, the permanent secretary, and our guests at the gallery. My name is Longe Tebitokwe Ademola, and I represent the good people of Oye Constituency 1, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question will be in form of admonition to the President of Norge in Ekiti State. From my understanding of what he has said, I want to believe that there's a palpable fear that at the end of the day, they may not get their money as a grand due. Mr. Speaker, I want to admonish the Norge President that we should endeavor to trust the government. We should endeavor to trust the government. You see, there is this notion that politicians are not trustworthy. But you yourself have acceded to one basic fact here. You said, under His Excellency Dr. John Kade-Fayemi, that there were no issues. And also as exemplified by the continuity government of His Excellency Governor Biodun Abayomi Oyebanji. So I am looking at it that you are not comfortable because you do not fully trust the government to be faithful to this agreement. But I want to tell you, Norge President, I think you do not have any fear. Just believe that at the end of the day, whatever the government has promised that they will do it. You see, we are all human beings. And when Honorable Commissioner of Finance was talking here, you can see that most of his discussions is also based on the fact that this government is people-centric. We also have compassion for the people. Okay? So please, trust the government. Trust these administrators that whatever they have said, they have committed themselves to do, they will do it. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I am aware the head of service is also around, and she's one of the major stakeholders, and she's covered under the earlier motion passed that allows major stakeholders to come in. So please get her a seat to also come in to sit. Honorable Tunde, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dear colleagues, I'm Honorable Babatunde Oke, representing Ikere Constituency 1. From the comments from the Norge chairman, we've been able to realize that the fear has to do with our institution. What I mean by institution is that they believe that the scheme is good, but the implementation is where the fear lies. Today, according to them, we are enjoying progressive government in the state. And what happens if there is a break in the continuity of progressive fold in the state? As legislators, I think the answer to the fear is to see how we can strengthen our institution the more and through the law. Of course, we have the bill before us. What we can do from our own end is to look at it and see how we can strengthen the institution that is going to carry out the implementation of this scheme. We all agree that the scheme is good. The fear is the implementation. So to the union leader, be rest assured that this House is going to look into the bill and ensure that we strengthen the institutions that are going to carry out the implementation, so that your fear of what if there is no continuity will be laid to rest. So that is what we are here for. Today, of course, for us to be even having this conversation, inviting you to come and speak about this will show that the progressive stands for we stand for strengthening institutions. This House of Assembly, in the past, of course, we may not be experiencing this, like what Mr. Speaker said. What if the governor just say, okay, go and pass the law? We have experienced things like that in this state. But for us to be engaging you, then you will know what we stand for. So be rest assured that the institutions that are going to carry out the implementation, we are going to look into the law and ensure that they are well strengthened, so that if at the end of the day we have a governor that is not worker friendly, the law and the institution will be there to guide. Thank you so much.
We also do, Honorable Commissioner for Finance, probably you also let them know that there is RSA order. I am not sure the RSA order is government. I am not very sure. I think maybe if they get to understand that, so that they will do, that you have an RSA order, it is just government also making its own contribution, and you are making your contribution, and at the end of the day, it is there. I think you get your money from the RSA order, not even government. Maybe, please, Commissioner, can you just enlighten the public on that, and the NOGE chairman?
The Right Honorable Speaker, members of the Ekiti State House of Assembly. The NOGE chairman is well aware of these arrangements because he was at a meeting with us on this matter in the past. It's very simple. Everyone can choose the pension fund administrator of their choice. So this is not something that government compels anybody to choose. There are, I believe, 13 PFAs you can pick from, right? You can pick the PFA based on your own risk appetite as an individual. That PFA opens a retirement savings account in your name. It is in that retirement savings account that both the employer and employee's contributions are paid. So every month, as an account holder, you get a statement of account. It tells you how much has been paid, what return the PFA has made on your investment, and what the value of your investment is as at that day. You get a monthly report, right? You get an account statement that tells you that. So if the government does not pay in 1 month, you already know in month 1 that actually you've deducted this money from my salary, but you've not remitted it. Now, because we are comparing one scheme to another, there is no perfect scheme, right? And I hear the chairman say, I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, as a politician, that the solution to your fear is that you continue to vote our party, you will never have a problem. So you have the yam and the knife. You know what to do with it. Very simple. But if we move from politics to governance, the reality is that we need to compare one scheme with another. Under the defined benefit scheme, you as the account holder, you have no sight of what is going on. You just know there's an obligation. So whether it's DB, whether it's CPS, there is an obligation. The obligation is established. But under the DB scheme, you have no sight. Government will deduct your contribution and theirs. They won't pay any part. You don't see it. Until another government comes in and says, we are unable to honor this obligation because there's no money in the account, the reserve account, where that money should have been paid. All that has happened is accounting entries have been taken. But there's no cash backing for those entries. You don't know until the day you retire. Of course, you can tell because the person that retired 10 years before you had just collected his money. So you have a sense of what's going on. But you don't know for certain. Now, with the CPS, there's already a separation of duties that allows for transparency that you could never have under the DB scheme. Because the PFA will send you a monthly statement. So if it's month 1 that your money was not paid, you can already blow your whistle. That's 1. 2, as Mr. Speaker has said, government does not touch, once that remittance is made, government does not touch that money. Again, the PS PENCOM has shared with you that we have the sinking fund in the event of death of the employee to ensure that the employee's life insurance is backed, cash backed. We have been setting this money aside today. It's not that it's something that we are saying we plan to do. We are already doing it today. But I think the last part and the financial economic part of this conversation is that your obligation is static under the DB scheme. There is no room for any appreciation because government is not in the business of investing your money in low or no risk assets to give you a return. So if that money was meant to be 20 million, whether it's now, whether it's 20 years, is that 20 million you are getting? No nothing on top of it. Now, the PFAs have a mandate to invest those monies in treasury bills, in bonds, in fixed income instruments primarily, that ensure that you get a return on your lump sum. So that's your 20 million under the CPS. It's actually not 20 million, it's 20 million plus a delta. Which means that adjusted for inflation, you actually get more. So the fear I understand, but whether it's DB, whether it's CPS, it doesn't take away the NOGE fear, right? And actually, under the CPS, you have more transparency. In the event that a Pharaoh that doesn't know Joseph comes, you actually can say, I know from day one if you've not paid or if you've paid. And to Mr. Speaker's point, I think the thing is about, you have to think about institution building, right? And I think it's Socrates who said that an institution is the lengthened shadow of an individual. The reality of the conversation is that institutions are not built overnight. If you defer institution building because of fear, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, our children will say, our fathers failed us because they had an opportunity to make a permanent change in these institutions, and we failed to do it because we were fearful of changes in government. Fear cannot be the reason for not taking decisive action. If the chairman or president, is it president or chairman? President. If the president has said to me, our fear is that this scheme is a failure, fundamentally, we don't believe in the CPS, then it's a different conversation. There's a reason why Nigeria moved. The Pension Reform Act, Mr. Speaker and members, is the most transformative piece of legislation, in my opinion, this country has ever seen. Since 1999 till date, there is no act of parliament, in my opinion, that is as transformative. Because people now have the benefit of their money, but the bigger issue is actually the capital that it allows you put together to do infrastructure projects in Nigeria. So, I hear you, President. The solution, in my opinion, is, because I told the PS, I said we can end this conversation and allow the legislators do their work and make this thing voluntary. It doesn't take anything away from us. It makes our lives much easier. Much, much easier. But I tell you what will happen. Again, I ask you, go to the people on the CPS today. Compare their experience with those on the defined benefit scheme. I'm not talking about some random police officer or some no-name police officer we don't know. I'm talking about in Ekiti. Let's not go to Sokoto to find what's in your Sokoto. In Ekiti, go to the people on the CPS. Ask them when they collected their lump sum payments. Ask them if they are collecting their pension. So for me, local governments, states, subvented institutions, they are all workers. They should all have the right to a future after public service, and that is what this amendment is seeking to do. I thank you once again.
There is one area I know you've mentioned, but I want you to make it very clear. I receive different calls on this matter, and that has to do with people who are just less than 10 to 15 years in service. And you know the way this thing is run, that you use the year of service as part of what you use to work the retirement benefit. And if this thing is starting in 2028, and it's going to, it's only those who has, I think, 5 years left in service that will be exempted. So meaning that if I have 6 years, I am not exempted. If I have 8 years, 10 years, up to 15 years. If so, how do you, what is the arrangement, particularly for this category of people, those who have from 6 up to 15 years in service? Because I can tell you that some of them are saying, if this law is passed, those of us from 6 years up to 15 years, we are going to retire en masse so that we are not captured. So they need to understand what this arrangement and what they should expect.
Mr. Speaker, again, these are some of the maybe issues that come from a lack of understanding. You know, the accrued rights valuation, the reason we did this accrued rights valuation was to determine the value of the benefits earned to date. So if we switch today, so we did the valuation of the accrued rights. We got an actuary to actually come and do the actuarial valuation. Mr. Speaker, I don't know how much of a layman language I want to break actuarial valuation, but you know what we've done is we've said, look, and I know why you are saying I should do that. What we are saying to people is that we want to determine what your liability is, what our liability to you is today. Whether it is gratuity, whether it is pension, we should have paid X to you today, right? Because you are moving from one scheme to another, we have to transfer that. Now, of course, like I alluded to, the total liability to the government today is 515 billion naira. If you take all workers, including subvented institutions, etc. So it is not 515 million naira for the purpose of illustration, is 1.5 times the budget of Ekiti State for 2025. Just to put it on the table, right? Now, what we are saying is the earliest that you will retire under this CPS is 2030. What we will do as a responsible government is start to set money aside from today. Apart from the fact that your employer and employee's contribution already will start being paid, that's separate. We will now have to do lump sum payments, right, into a reserve account that ensures that those who are retiring in 6 years, they will be the first beneficiaries of the scheme. They get their lump sum payments and they continue to earn their pension. So they actually don't lose anything. Actually, Mr. Speaker, it's the flip side reaction. Because if we look at today's efforts in terms of clearing gratuity, someone who moves to the CPS today is likely to get their lump sum payments than someone on the DB scheme. Right? Same day. Because for the person on the DB scheme to get their money at the same time, it means that by that time we should have cleared 10 years of arrears. Yeah. And I'll tell you something that also that might not be attractive, but is the truth. The government can, for example, go and raise financing to say, let's try to clear either gratuity or the accrued rights. Now, if you are going to raise financing, if the PFA, if faced with both choices, will always prefer to finance the accrued rights valuation for one simple reason. A pensioner today on the DB scheme does not have any obligation to open a retirement savings account. But a worker on the CPS must open an RSA. So effectively, the biggest funders of anything in the country today are the pension fund administrators. So effectively, the PFAs are more interested as well in funding something that will come back into an RSA as against something that nobody sees. So there is no upside to being on the DB scheme relative to the CPS. And that's the thing I would like presidents and other union representatives to know. That every problem you raise with the CPS, you have that problem and more on the DB scheme. And to clarify again, Mr. Speaker, nobody really loses value of the work they've done till date. Otherwise, nobody is going to switch. I wouldn't switch if I'm going to erode value of the work I've done for 15, 16 years, when I have only 5 or 6 years left. But these are the misconceptions that happened in 2010. And I think that 15 years later, Mr. Speaker, it will be a crying shame if we are not better informed and if we still carry misconceptions of 15 years ago. Thank you very much.
I believe you still have something to say. Well, since we are not a plenary, I will allow you. And but please make it because we have other things that we want to do now. Meanwhile, let me also recognize the presence of the head of service. I'm not sure she wants to contribute to this anymore. Yes, so you are welcome. Dr. Folakemi Olomojobi, HOS. Please quickly tell us your name, designation, and let us hear you out.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished members of the State House of Assembly, the Head of Service, Honorable Commissioner for Finance, and members of the PENCOM, I am Comrade Daudu Bamidele Olaiton, the NUT State Chairman. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will be brief. My comrade, the President, Noge, has spoken, and there has been some reactions to what he has said. I want to say this quickly, because the issue of CPS, with much reference to teachers in Ekiti State, we see it as a good program that needs to be emulated. But the fear many of our workers are having is the commitment from the government side.
Please, Honorable Babatunde Fayeko.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I am Babatunde Abiodun Fayeko. I represent those constituency 1. The NUT chairman, right? You don't pocket while addressing the House. You are addressing the House, please. Thank you.
Please, yes. Your mic. And I will just want you to just go to the point, sir.
The government circle is the fear we are having, not the present government that is in place, but subsequent
Let's
government.
leave the future. We'll battle with the future when we get to the future.
I know. And our own plea is that if adequate legislation is made,
exactly what we are doing now,
will not allow anybody that will be coming after this government to rubbish the program.
We will make it an impeachable offense.
Thank you very much. I think
we will make it an impeachable offense to rubbish this.
Thank you very much, sir.
I think that settles it. That it become an impeachable offense for any governor that toys with this particular law in Ekiti State. Are you okay with that? I know you love this. The fear is what happens after the exit of Baal. But I can tell you, it's going to be part of our law that it is an impeachable offense for any governor. And not just an impeachable offense, and that we will also make it a criminal offense. So that after even, after leaving office, it can also be tried for infraction against this law. I think that's okay. Thank you very much. On that note, I think we can wind down on this committee of the whole House on this reform. By the grace of God, we will report to the plenary. When is our next sitting? Okay. No. Well, this law will be passed with all the amendments that we have raised. But that will be done at the next sitting so that we can collate all the opinions and areas that we want to. So at our next sitting, we will do that. So you can therefore move the motion for the House to dissolve back to plenary.
Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues. I'm Honorable Tolu Lokwege, representing the Southwest Constituency 2. Having exhausted our deliberations at the Committee of the Whole House, I want to move this motion that this House reverts back to plenary to take our resolutions from the committee of the whole house.
Yes, I take Honorable Femi Fatula.
Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, my name is Femi Fatula. I represent the Colleague Constituency 1. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the majority leader motion that this House should dissolve the plenary. I so second.
And I put the question therefore that if you are in support that this House dissolve back to plenary, say aye. If you're against, say nay. The high service. May I also quickly announce, Leader of the House, I know you love to work very well. We are going to step down other items on our order of the day so that we can move straight to the executive session. So, Chairman, House Committee on Education, we will take your report on the Education, Science and Technology, Ekiti State Senior Secondary School Board Bill. We will take it at the next adjourned date. Also, the committee, the House Services, considering the House of Assembly Service Commission Loans Board, we will also take that at the next sitting. So, you can move the motion for adjournment so that we can close plenary for today. Motion for adjournment.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thanks, my dear colleagues, for this wonderful session. Right Honorable Speaker, having set down items 5 and 6, I want to move a motion that this House adjourns sine die. I so move.
Any seconder? I take a female representative. Amen.
The Right Honorable Speaker and distinguished members of this Honorable House, I rise this afternoon to second the motion as moved by the Majority Leader that this House be adjourned till sine die.
What is your observation? Before I put the question. Yes. You raise your hand.
Honorable Speaker, distinguished...
And this is observation on the motion for adjournment. Yes.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Longe Temitope Ademola, and I represent the good people of Oye Constituency 1, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the motion for adjournment, I'd like to intimate this House with an important event that is coming up, that has actually started a couple of days ago. And the event is not only worthy of mention, but I think it's worthy of our celebration. It's an event that has already heralded the 60th birthday anniversary of our leader, our mentor, our benefactor, one who has been described as an erudite scholar, a man who is one of the brightest and best that we have in Ekiti State and Nigeria by extension, a man who has succeeded to be the first governor in the history of Ekiti State to transit to a successor generation from the same party, a man who laid the foundation of the shared prosperity agenda that our governor, His Excellency Governor Abed, is following. Mr. Speaker, I'm talking about a man who is one of our brightest and best in this country, a visiting professor in the Institute of Leadership at King's College, a man who has impacted on the lives of more Ekiti people. Mr. Speaker, I want to intimate you that the 60th birthday of our leader, His Excellency Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, has already begun. And it's not only necessary that we mention it, I think we should celebrate this man, a man who has actually taught us that in the discharge of power and discretion, we should be just, to the weak, to the vulnerable, to the less privileged, and to the underdogs. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to tell you that apart from the fact that we should celebrate this man, with your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I would want you to direct that we all stand up and sing a birthday song for this man.
I will do that at my discretion.
Thank
you
Mr.
very
Speaker.
much. Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Femi Akindele, I know you have something, then we take, and yes, Honorable Femi Akindele, representing Irepodo Ifelodun 1.
Right Honorable Speaker, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Right Honorable Speaker, my name is Honorable Femi Olanrewaju Akindele. I represent the entire celestial and terrestrial bodies of Irepodo Ifelodun Constituency 1. Right Honorable Speaker, by coincidence and by the grace of God, today happens to be the birthday of our own number one Omoluabi in Ekiti State, on whose shoulder all the other Omoluabis that has occupied that seat at Okebareke, they'll be standing and they are still standing. I want to tell the whole House that today is the 67th birthday of Otubani Adebayo, our own number one Omoluabi in Ekiti State. That Honorable Speaker, dear colleagues, permit me to use this medium to wish him happy birthday and wish him long life in good health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. I think it is so lucky to have these two great men. You see, I don't think it's by coincidence. Otumbani Adebayo, the first executive governor of Ekiti State, was born on the 5th of February, while Dr. John Kayode Fayemi was born on the 9th of February. Today is Otumbani Adebayo's birthday, while Sunday is Dr. John Kayode Fayemi's birthday. And as you are aware, since yesterday, activity commemorating the 60th, which is the diamond age of Dr. Fayemi, has actually commenced since yesterday. Otumbani Adebayo is 67 today. Really, the man is, I remember when he was governor, they said a young man, but the young man has grown to become another statesman. And Governor Fayemi too is becoming another statesman by turning 68. I think we should all stand up to do a shout out to the two of them, all of us, and all we do is just, do we sing or we just say, happy birthday, Otumba Adebayo, happy birthday, JKF. I think a shout out will be better this time. Shall we rise up? Thank you very much. So we start with Otumba Adebayo. Happy birthday, Otumba Adebayo. Let's say it again. Happy birthday, Otumba Adebayo. Now to JKF. Happy birthday, JKF. Once again, happy birthday, JKF. Thank you. God bless you. We wish them all the best. We wish them more fruitful life. And we wish them prosperity. Thank you. On that note, I put the question that if you are in support that this House do adjourn, Senator, press yes. If you like, press nay. The yes, we still have it. So if you're against, press nay. I know, like I always say, majority will have their way, minority will have their say. The yes have it. I will allow the commissioner, HOS, and the rest to take a bow before we rise. Thank you. And the House arise.